Why the NVA was afraid about MCV SOG. During the gloomy daylight hours of the Vietnam War, combat took place in harsh woodlands and impenetrable jungles. It was an attack on the senses, both mental and physical. The South Vietnamese and American troops engaged in a bloody ground battle against the North Vietnamese Army, NVA, for 2 decades. A much more covert conflict was being fought beneath the surface, even though the majority of the fighting was taking place in the open, with both sides aware of one another. The Americans possessed a secret, a whole set of highly skilled clandestine forces that could enter NVA hiding places and cross borders covertly, something the U.S. military was theoretically incapable of doing. Some of the most successful and top-secret operations during the Vietnam War were carried out by these teams. Because of their extreme exposure, danger, and training, these squads, known as MACV SOG, had a 100% casualty rate, meaning that every single member had been hurt at least once. MACV SOG. What were they? An elite team of special operatives known as the Military Assistance Command Vietnam Studies and Observations Group, or MACV SOG, was established in January 1964 and carried out the most covert operations during the Vietnam War. They invaded Laos, Cambodia, and North Vietnam by operating clandestinely along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, regions the U.S. government denied their forces had set foot in. For 8 years, MACV SOG collected vital intelligence, carried out prisoner grabs, conducted extremely risky reconnaissance, and planned psychological operations to disseminate misinformation among the NVA and its allies. Recon teams, RTs, and hatchet forces were two of the most well-known units that comprised MACV SOG. Hatchet forces served as the recon team's rapid reaction force in addition to their usual specialty of raids and ambushes. For over 10 years following the war, the existence of the entire squad was kept a secret due to the secrecy of their operations. However, some of the most audacious operations of the Vietnam War have recently been made public thanks to released records and surviving personnel, like former MACV SOG operative John Stryker Meyer. The Thanksgiving Day mission of 1968. Instead of feasting on platters of turkey and pumpkin pie in November 1968, Stryker and 5 other agents were surreptitiously dropped on Cambodian soil with the mission of locating 3 NVA divisions that had gone missing. Team St. Idaho's objective was to enter, locate them, and exit covertly. There were perhaps 30,000 personnel spread across 3 divisions, which is so many that you would think it would be easy to detect and report back. However, rather than quietly scouting the area and identifying the enemy's hiding places in the jungle, St. Idaho inadvertently found itself right in the middle of the conflict. They had gone from being completely alone and lurking in the shadows to being encircled by makeshift military encampments in a matter of minutes. Each would die at the hands of the NVA in a matter of seconds if they were discovered. However, it's not a good idea to remain invisible right in the thick of everything. A South Vietnamese team member's warning, Beaucoup VC, was heard in a matter of seconds, and everything around them burst into chaos. After miraculously avoiding a barrage of gunshots, Team St. Idaho promptly set claymore mines at their location and fled. The MACV SOG crew had no choice but to run and shoot, battling fire with fire in a desperate sprint through the jungle as the NVA were everywhere. The NVA was likely unaware that they were up against only 6 soldiers. They all battled like 100, employing every tactic in their toolbox to repel the onslaught of troops. As they rushed, Bubba, the other American soldier on the team, placed additional tripwire claymores. Together with Meyer, they then used sawed-off M79s to betray their position. They fired rounds of 40mm grenades into the approaching NVA tide, only pausing when the claymores exploded, delaying their advance. The troop was relieved when their helicopter came back, bringing down the NVA. The guys were able to speed over the Xville site and throw themselves into its belly, thanks to the covering fire it provided. They safely flew from the now-defunct NVA Division's Operation Thundercloud, with the door gunner machine gun blazing. Without the South Vietnamese forces' local knowledge of the country's terrain, America would not have been able to participate in the Vietnam War successfully. Due to the deep terrain, locals and reconnaissance missions provided crucial information on the whereabouts of the NVA troops' gatherings and hiding places amid the jungle. Not only could a captured Viet Cong or NVA offer useful tidbits of intelligence about northern movements, but the same NVA or Viet Cong could become helpful if they were captured, recruited, and trained. Naturally, a conflict cannot be considered complete until soldiers are willing to transfer sides to improve their chances. Thus, the MACV SOG launched Operation Thundercloud, a clandestine effort to identify NVA soldiers who would be prepared to defect and return to the North Vietnamese camps as spies. These people were recruited and trained by Special Ops, who then dropped them back behind enemy lines. Captain Bud Williams, the commanding commander, divided the soldiers into 4 three-man teams and provided them with fictitious paperwork, a cover story, and surveillance tools such as maps, cameras, and radios. They would then be dropped in a location where they would soon come across NVA soldiers whom they could ask for a place to sleep. Operation Thundercloud was extremely bold and necessitated a high level of mutual trust. For his part, Williams had to have faith that these soldiers would not instantly abandon the pretense and tell the NVA what they wanted. If they did, he would be walking right into an open trap when it came time to extract them. Luckily for Williams, the teams quickly obtained a wealth of really valuable intelligence, demonstrating that the trust was well-founded. "Very, very brave young men," he said, "and I consider it an honor to have the opportunity to work with them." Operation Tailwind. Across the border in southern Laos, American-backed Hmong tribal groups made a valiant attempt to retake Quechua outposts in the summer of 1970. However, the relentless and continuous assault of NVA troops intent on overrunning them caused them to be subdued and quickly collapse. It was a risky situation, but the MACV SOG was used to getting caught in the midst of it. A hatchet force squad was sent into eastern Laos to damage forces, destroy supplies, and gather intelligence to deflect NVA attention. The company, consisting of 110 Montagnards and 16 Americans, planted demolition explosives in bunkers with the help of heavy air artillery. As the hatchet squad marched with the NVA alerted, they encountered enemy soldiers in waves that persisted through the night, meeting fire with fire on the ground. They carried their wounded with them since they hardly stopped. Throughout the night and the following day, the company traipsed over narrow pathways and across riverbeds, frequently coming into contact with the NVA. It would be certain death if they were seen in large numbers. The company had to take a break on the second night before continuing their arduous journey to their next mission site, since shrapnel was still falling and men were still seriously injured. The hatchet force stormed the base camps and bunkers, destroying remaining NVA and hurling grenades while relying largely on circling American helicopters to clear a passage. They discovered a bunker 12 feet underground, which was one of their greatest victories. Maps littered the walls, and document after document was crammed into footlockers and hidden in pouches, giving the special forces a wealth of intelligence. They had discovered a significant command center for logistics. It was time to leave, but the information in this one location alone would be priceless. By this point, all Americans were hurt, and half the company was hurt. They killed about 144 NVA and wounded another 50 in a matter of days, while the air team killed about 288. Only 3 Montagnards had lost their lives on their side. The crew proceeded swiftly, with NVA teams after them. The only thing keeping them at bay was the good fortune of the Special Operations' extensive overhead protection. To safely get the hatchet force off the ground and out of Laos, the operation required 72 U.S. fighters and about 500,000 pounds of bombs, rockets, and napalm. The final man to safely board was Captain Eugene McCarley.